The atmosphere in Washington was electric. The marble walls of the Kennedy Center trembled, not from music, but from the thunderous applause of an audience that had just witnessed something historic. Elon Musk, billionaire innovator turned senior advisor to President Donald Trump and the newly appointed de facto head of the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, had taken the stage for what was supposed to be a mild update on AI implementation in federal bureaucracy. What unfolded instead sent political shockwaves across the country. Dressed in a sleek black suit and flanked by Secret Service agents, Musk stood before a sea of reporters, tech entrepreneurs, and policy wonks. The moment the first words left his lips, everyone knew this would be no ordinary address. "I came here to talk about systems," he began. "But it seems necessary to talk about the system itself. The broken one we inherited. And the man who helped break it, Barack Obama." Gasps echoed across the room. This wasn't just political critique, it was an all-out takedown. Musk, who had long held a libertarian-leaning streak, had recently become more openly aligned with the Trump administration, especially after the creation of DOGE, which he was tasked with heading to root out waste, corruption, and inefficiency in government programs. But no one expected him to use a nationally televised forum to lay into a former president with such surgical precision. He continued, "Under President Obama, we witnessed the expansion of bureaucracy under the guise of progress. 8 years of regulatory bloat, fiscal irresponsibility, and administrative paralysis. And what did the American people get in return? We got delays. We got debt. We got dysfunction." Cameras zoomed in on Musk's face as he delivered blow after blow, his tone calm but icy. "Let's take healthcare," he said. "Obamacare promised affordability. Instead, premiums skyrocketed. Doctors left in droves. Middle-class families were stuck between paying for groceries or paying their deductibles. The man who promised hope handed us red tape." Musk then pulled up side-by-side charts on the massive LED screen behind him. On one side, federal spending and debt levels under Obama. On the other, current reductions under DOGE initiatives and the Trump administration's lean government policies. The difference was staggering. "The data doesn't lie," Musk said. "We're not just cutting waste, we're reprogramming a government that has been infected with inefficiency for over a decade." The audience sat in stunned silence, then erupted in applause. But the backlash came just as quickly. Within minutes, hashtags like #ElonExposed and #Musk vs. Obama were trending. Prominent Democrats like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Chuck Schumer took to social media denouncing the speech as an unprecedented attack on democratic norms and a slap in the face to the Obama legacy. CNN cut from its regular programming to air a panel debate titled, "Elon Musk, Patriot or Propagandist?" MSNBC's Rachel Maddow called the speech textbook authoritarian disinformation. But for millions of Americans tuning in from their homes, especially swing state independents and moderate Democrats, the speech struck a different chord. In a diner outside Akron, Ohio, 52-year-old warehouse manager Ron Harrelson watched the replay with a mix of awe and vindication. "I voted for Obama twice," he said, "but watching Elon break it down like that, I felt like someone finally told the truth." Republicans, meanwhile, were energized. President Trump tweeted moments after the speech, "Elon just exposed the biggest scam in modern history, and it's about time. DOGE is just getting started. America wins again." That tweet alone garnered 45 million views in 2 hours. Back in D.C., Democratic lawmakers scrambled for a response. A hastily scheduled press conference by House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries attempted to deflect, calling Musk's claims dangerous fiction and accusing him of using his position to rewrite history with tech-powered propaganda. But the public response told a different story. Conservative talk radio and podcasts lit up. Tucker Carlson praised Musk for having the guts to say what every American with a calculator already knows. Meanwhile, the White House Communications Office released new data showing a record drop in bureaucratic spending since the implementation of DOGE's AI-powered auditing systems, but the real kicker came when Musk announced the next phase. A live audit of the Obama-era Department of Energy projects, set to be televised nationally. "The American people deserve to know where their money went," Musk said with a smirk. And spoiler alert, it wasn't solar panels. As the crowd roared again, one thing was clear: Musk's crusade against inefficiency was becoming something much bigger. It was personal. It was political. And for Democrats, it was war. By the following morning, America was ablaze with debate. Coffee shops buzzed with talk of Elon Musk's scathing breakdown of the Obama administration. In suburban neighborhoods, truck stops, Ivy League campuses, and even barbershops in downtown Baltimore, one question echoed louder than ever: was Obama's legacy a myth all along? Elon Musk wasn't done. Having announced a live audit of key Obama-era government projects, starting with the Department of Energy's failed green initiatives, the DOGE team wasted no time. Within 48 hours, a report titled The $90 Billion Mirage was released on the official White House site, detailing what Musk called one of the largest shell games in American fiscal history. The report exposed dozens of projects funded under the Obama stimulus plan's clean energy program. The highlight? Solyndra, the now infamous solar panel company that had received over $500 million in government loans before going bankrupt. But Musk's team went further, uncovering 18 more companies that had received sizable grants and subsidies only to either collapse or relocate operations overseas. This isn't just bad luck, Musk said in a televised briefing, standing in front of a massive screen labeled Taxpayer Betrayal Map. It's systemic mismanagement. It's political favoritism disguised as innovation. These weren't energy investments, they were payouts to campaign donors and cronies. Among the findings, over $3.7 billion in loan guarantees were handed to firms whose executives had direct ties to top Obama aides. A Colorado-based wind company received $280 million and moved half its production to China within 2 years. An EV battery manufacturer went bankrupt just 4 months after receiving $191 million, citing market immaturity. The reaction was volcanic. On Capitol Hill, GOP members were already drafting resolutions to open formal investigations into these findings. Senator Josh Hawley tweeted, "If Elon Musk uncovered this in 72 hours with DOGE, what else is hiding in the shadows of Obama's legacy? We need hearings. We need subpoenas." Now, Obama's former Energy Secretary, Dr. Ernest Moniz, appeared on MSNBC the same night, trying to defend the decisions. Investments in clean energy are inherently risky, he insisted, and the Obama administration was pioneering uncharted territory. But Musk wasn't buying it. In a direct rebuttal posted on X, formerly Twitter, Musk responded, "Pioneering doesn't mean failing upwards with taxpayer money. If these were tech startups, no private VC would have touched them. But they were funded with your grandma's tax dollars. That's the difference." The left-leaning press launched a coordinated push to discredit Musk's motives. An opinion piece in The Atlantic claimed, Elon is dangerously blending populism with Silicon Valley authoritarianism. The Washington Post accused him of launching a calculated smear campaign to help Trump's re-election chances, but it wasn't working. Polling released that week showed a stunning shift among independent voters. 65% supported Elon Musk's auditing initiative, and over 58% agreed that the Obama administration's economic programs should be reevaluated. Even among registered Democrats, 23% expressed concern over the findings. In the West Wing, President Trump was thrilled. At a private cabinet meeting, he reportedly turned to Elon and said, "I should have put you in charge of the IRS too." Meanwhile, Democrats were in crisis mode. Former President Barack Obama remained silent for nearly a week, only issuing a vague statement through a spokesperson, saying, "The president stands by the difficult decisions made during a time of unprecedented economic challenge and believes history will judge those efforts favorably." But Musk wasn't interested in waiting for history. During a surprise visit to Arizona, where DOGE's new government transparency task force was headquartered, Musk delivered another knockout punch. "Let me ask America," he said. "If I told you a Fortune 500 CEO spent $90 billion, created fewer than 10,000 jobs, and then said, 'Just trust me,' would that be acceptable? Because that's what we got. We don't need hope and change, we need honesty and courage." The crowd of nearly 12,000, mostly young professionals and working-class families, erupted into chants of Elon. 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 Back in Washington, the DNC went into overdrive. Behind closed doors, internal strategy memos leaked to the press revealed growing anxiety over Musk's influence. One memo read, "We underestimated his reach. He isn't just a tech guy anymore, he's shaping public opinion like a cultural wrecking ball." And they weren't wrong. As Musk teased even more revelations, this time pointing to Department of Education spending and absurd failures in student debt programs. Democratic strategists feared the unthinkable. Was Elon Musk becoming the most dangerous political weapon Donald Trump had ever deployed? Elon Musk's revelations were only getting started. The next target? The Department of Education. After weeks of audits and public statements, Musk and his team at DOGE unveiled what they called the student loan scam, a meticulously researched exposé on the Obama administration's handling of student loan forgiveness programs. Musk's press conference took place at the gleaming new headquarters of Tesla's Arizona manufacturing plant. The plant itself was an emblem of Trump's promises to bring American manufacturing back. Musk stood before a packed room of journalists, policy experts, and a live-streaming audience of millions. His expression was as sharp as ever, but there was a palpable tension in the air. This would be the next phase in his war on Obama's legacy. Since 2009, Americans have been sold a lie, Musk began. The promise of student loan forgiveness was never meant to help students. It was a political scheme designed to buy votes and funnel taxpayer money to loan servicing companies. He wasn't holding back. The student loan scam report claimed that billions of dollars were funneled through programs like Public Service Loan Forgiveness (PSLF), a plan that was supposed to offer loan relief to individuals working in public service jobs after 10 years of payments. Instead, according to Musk's audit, almost 90% of applicants were disqualified due to bureaucratic loopholes that were nearly impossible to navigate. Worse, the companies handling the loans pocketed millions in servicing fees for programs that failed to meet their goals. Musk's team had compiled an exhaustive list of the biggest beneficiaries, many of which were companies that had ties to political donors. One of the most egregious examples was Navient, one of the nation's largest student loan servicers. The report detailed how Navient had pocketed $3.2 billion over the course of a decade, even though only a fraction of borrowers received loan forgiveness. The kicker? Navient's CEO had donated nearly $1 million to Obama's 2012 re-election campaign. It's not just a policy failure. It's a betrayal, Musk said, his voice steady but laced with anger. We're talking about young people who were promised a better future only to be saddled with crushing debt and lies. And who benefited? A few elite companies and political insiders. The media was abuzz. MSNBC, which had initially dismissed Musk's attacks as political rhetoric, now found themselves scrambling to explain the findings. The liberal network's pundits attempted to defend Obama's administration, claiming that the public service loan programs were well-intentioned despite their flaws, but Musk wasn't done. The truth is clear, he said. The Obama administration promised hope, but all they delivered was a system stacked against the very people they claimed to be helping. If we're serious about changing America, we need to tear down these failed systems. Republican lawmakers jumped on the revelations immediately. Senator Ted Cruz, who had been a vocal critic of the student loan industry, held a press conference within hours praising Musk's work. This is exactly why we need a complete overhaul of the federal student loan system, Cruz said. The American taxpayer has been defrauded, and it's time to hold these institutions accountable. But the Democratic Party was now reeling. President Obama's loyalists had come out in full force to defend the former president, with many claiming that the focus on student loans was a diversion from the real issues facing the nation, like healthcare and income inequality. But their arguments were growing weaker by the day. Amidst the backlash, President Obama finally broke his silence. In a carefully crafted statement, he expressed disappointment in Musk's baseless accusations, calling them politically motivated and reckless. Obama tried to downplay the student loan crisis, suggesting that no system is perfect and that reforms were always a work in progress, but the American public wasn't buying it. Polling data from Gallup and Pew Research revealed a sharp decline in favorability for Obama's economic policies. For the first time in years, more Americans saw the former president's legacy as flawed, and they began to look toward solutions. Musk's approach and unapologetic dismantling of inefficiency was resonating with voters. In small towns across America, people were beginning to talk about Musk in a way they never had before. His critique of Obama had struck a chord. On a farm in Ohio, Karen Miller, a mother of two, said, "I never thought I'd agree with Musk, but when he talks about the way Obama's policies didn't work, it feels like he's speaking for me. I'm paying off student loans for a degree I can't even use." Obama promised change, but all we got were more rules and red tape. Even in Democratic-leaning areas, discontent was brewing. In Portland, Oregon, a city known for its progressive politics, a local tech entrepreneur, Theo Hernandez, shared his frustration. Obama made a lot of promises. But at the end of the day, the government grew larger and more expensive. The system was rigged. And I'm glad someone like Musk is calling it out. Musk's message was clear: the era of complacency was over. Government had become an inefficient behemoth, feeding off taxpayer money and growing out of control. His push for an overhaul, not just in the student loan system but in every aspect of federal governance, was gaining traction. As the day ended, Musk addressed the nation with a final statement that would echo for weeks to come. We're not just changing the government. We're changing the way we think about it. The American people deserve efficiency, transparency, and above all, accountability. The Obama years are over, and the real work is just beginning. As Elon Musk's war on Obama-era policies grew louder, Washington, D.C. found itself in a state of chaos. The Democratic Party was in disarray, scrambling to defend its legacy while simultaneously trying to confront the political earthquake that Musk had unleashed. On the other side of the aisle, Republicans saw a golden opportunity to challenge decades of government waste, corruption, and inefficiency. President Donald Trump, already a figure of contention for the left, began to embrace Musk's findings with zeal. The president, a self-proclaimed disruptor of the Washington establishment, had found an ally in Musk, someone with the same unapologetic willingness to confront the status quo. The president tweeted daily in support of Musk's audit, calling the revelations the tip of the iceberg and suggesting that the Obama administration had engaged in high-level corruption. Obama promised hope and change, Trump tweeted. What he gave us was a mess. No wonder people are finally waking up to the reality of his failed policies. With Musk's audits shaking the foundation of the Democratic Party, several prominent Democratic leaders felt compelled to respond. Former Vice President Joe Biden, one of Obama's closest allies, issued a blistering counter-statement in a primetime interview with CNN. Elon Musk is not a policymaker. He's a billionaire with an agenda, and he is using this to divide the country. We need to come together, not tear each other apart. Biden's words, however, were met with a wave of backlash. Many Democratic voters had grown increasingly disillusioned with the party's establishment, and Musk's attacks on Obama were providing them with a new perspective on why things hadn't changed as promised. The Democrats were losing the narrative, and they knew it. The situation became even more precarious for the Democrats as Musk doubled down on his efforts. The latest target in his crosshairs was the Affordable Care Act, Obama's signature piece of legislation. Musk's DOGE team had unearthed what they called the health insurance hoax, a report detailing how many of the promised benefits of the ACA had never materialized. Instead of providing affordable health care to all, Musk's team revealed that premiums for middle-class families had actually increased by 40% in some states, while the number of insurance options had drastically decreased. Insurance providers, meanwhile, had seen record profits. Obama promised us affordable health care, Musk said in an impromptu press conference. But all we got was more government control, higher premiums, and fewer choices. The ACA didn't just fail, it harmed millions of hardworking Americans. By now, Musk had become a lightning rod for both praise and condemnation. On the right, he was seen as a crusader, a hero exposing the bureaucratic corruption of the past. On the left, he was demonized as a dangerous populist trying to erase the progress of the Obama years. In an unprecedented move, Hillary Clinton, who had remained relatively silent throughout the drama, took to Twitter to weigh in. It's one thing to question the past. It's another to rewrite it for political gain, Clinton tweeted. Musk's attacks on Obama are not just unsubstantiated, they are dangerous. Clinton's intervention did little to quell the growing storm. In fact, it only seemed to fan the flames. The online discourse erupted in fury. Social media platforms were flooded with posts accusing Clinton of protecting the status quo. Critics called her out for refusing to acknowledge the problems with Obama-era policies. Musk's fans, meanwhile, rallied behind him with hashtags like #Musk2024 and #ElonExposes the truth, gaining traction across multiple platforms. Despite the backlash from some corners, Musk's approval ratings soared. A New York Times poll revealed that 52% of Americans now viewed Musk more favorably than Obama, with a significant portion of that support coming from independent voters. Among younger voters, the shift was even more pronounced, with 68% saying they preferred Musk's brand of radical honesty over the political establishment. Republicans, sensing a seismic shift in the political landscape, rallied behind Musk's efforts to not only expose the failures of the Obama administration but also to overhaul how government operated at its core. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell voiced his support, stating, "Elon Musk is showing us what real change looks like. He's not afraid to take on the system, and neither should we." The president also found Musk's audits to be a goldmine for re-election messaging. At campaign rallies, Trump repeatedly invoked Musk's findings to bolster his own claims of draining the swamp. "I've been telling you for years that Washington is broken," Trump said at a rally in Pennsylvania. "Now we have proof. Elon Musk has shown us just how deep the corruption runs. It's time for America to finally get its fair share." At a massive rally in Michigan, a state that had been pivotal in Trump's 2016 victory, the crowd roared in approval. Musk, not one to shy away from the limelight, made a surprise appearance on stage. "Thank you for your support, Michigan," he said, grinning. "But it's not about me. It's about all of us getting a government that actually works for us." The electric atmosphere in Michigan was a stark contrast to the scenes unfolding on Capitol Hill. In private meetings, Democrats were increasingly frustrated, with many senators and representatives expressing concern that their ability to win the upcoming elections was rapidly slipping away. "We're losing the narrative," one Democratic strategist confided. "It's not just about policy anymore. It's about trust, and right now Elon Musk has the public's trust. We're struggling to catch up." Behind closed doors, Obama's closest allies began to entertain the unthinkable. Was it time for a full-fledged counteroffensive? Could they mobilize a defense that would both protect Obama's legacy and discredit Musk's audits? The answer, however, remained elusive as the election cycle ramped up. The political battlefield was set. On one side stood Elon Musk, the tech mogul turned government reformer, with his relentless campaign to expose the failures of the Obama administration. On the other side stood a Democratic Party scrambling to defend its legacy, backed by former President Obama himself, and still reeling from Musk's damning exposés. The first direct confrontation came at a nationally televised town hall debate. It was an event unlike any other in modern American politics. The town hall featured not only candidates for office but also a special appearance by Musk himself. The format was designed to allow the American public to hear from both sides, but the real fireworks were expected when Musk would square off with President Obama, who had been invited to speak as a representative of the Democratic Party's ideals. The debate was held in a packed auditorium in Washington, D.C., with a live studio audience and millions of viewers tuning in from across the country. From the opening moments, it was clear that this was not going to be your typical political debate. Obama's entrance was dignified, his voice steady as he greeted the crowd. He presented himself as the voice of reason, the former leader who had worked tirelessly to bring the nation forward. "The challenges we faced during my administration were many, but we took them head-on. We passed the Affordable Care Act, pulled the nation back from the brink of financial collapse, and restored America's standing on the world stage," Obama stated, his voice calm and authoritative. But Musk was having none of it. "Restoring America's standing on the world stage," Musk shot back almost immediately. "You sold out the American people for political points. You left our economy in shambles. The so-called recovery after the 2008 crash was nothing but smoke and mirrors. The real recovery was never about the American worker. It was about the elites, about Wall Street, about the big banks, and about corporate cronies getting richer off taxpayer money." The audience fell silent. The tension in the air was palpable. For the first time, Obama's calm exterior cracked, and he responded with a hint of frustration. "Elon, your attacks are not based on facts. They are based on half-truths and a desire to undermine everything we've worked for. We fought hard to bring healthcare to the American people. We fought to ensure that the economy would thrive again." But Musk, with his characteristic candor, wasn't backing down. Healthcare that raised premiums for millions. A healthcare plan that was a giveaway to the insurance industry. Economic growth that was propped up by government intervention, while middle-class families were left to struggle. "That's the legacy you left behind, Obama. And it's not one that we should be proud of." The audience began murmuring, and it was clear that the rhetoric was beginning to turn in Musk's favor. His words were resonating with the everyday Americans who had felt left behind during the Obama years. But Obama wasn't done yet. He leaned in, looking directly at Musk. "You're wrong, Elon. Your vision may sound good on paper, but it lacks substance. You want to tear down the system, but have you ever considered what comes next? You don't simply dismantle an entire government structure without consequences. There's a reason we have checks and balances, a reason we have systems in place to protect the vulnerable." Musk's response was quick and decisive. Checks and balances? What good are checks and balances if the system is broken? You're right, Obama. We need to protect the vulnerable. But the real vulnerability lies in a government that's bloated and inefficient, a system that's rigged against the people. You built that system, and now it's time to tear it down and rebuild it with efficiency, transparency, and accountability. The crowd erupted in applause, and it was clear that Musk's message was striking a chord. Obama stood there, visibly agitated, as the audience cheered. It was becoming apparent that Musk wasn't just attacking the policies of the past. He was offering an alternative that resonated with voters. The debate continued, but it was clear that the real conflict was not between the two men alone. It was between two opposing visions of America's future. Obama's vision was that of a government that could be reformed from within, that could continue to work through the system. Musk, on the other hand, was calling for a revolution, a complete dismantling of the bureaucratic behemoth that he argued had failed the American people. In the days following the debate, the American public was buzzing. Polls showed a significant shift in sentiment, with Musk's favorability rating continuing to climb, particularly among independent voters. Even some Democrats, disillusioned with the party's inability to confront the growing issues, began to express support for Musk's radical approach. On Capitol Hill, the fallout from the debate was swift. Several prominent Democratic senators, feeling the pressure, began to distance themselves from Obama's policies. They quietly began to align themselves with Musk's call for change, signaling that even within the heart of the party, the tides were turning. But for Obama, the battle was far from over. In an exclusive interview with PBS NewsHour, Obama doubled down on his defense of his administration's legacy. "The work we did was necessary," he said. "It wasn't perfect, but it laid the groundwork for progress." Elon Musk may be a great businessman, but he doesn't understand the complexities of governing. Musk's response was simple and direct. The government's complexity is the reason it's failing. It's time for a new kind of leadership that works for the people, not for the political insiders. As Election Day loomed ever closer, the country remained divided. But one thing was certain. The old guard of politics was losing its grip on power. Whether through Musk's relentless drive for government efficiency or Trump's populist appeal, the American political landscape was being redefined. And the Democrats, despite their best efforts, were fighting a losing battle. The final question now remained: would Americans take a chance on the future, or would they return to the past? The answer was waiting to be written.